What truly unfolds when a rising superpower, with global ambitions and formidable resources, sets its sights on a small yet strategically crucial nation. In the swirling tides of contemporary geopolitics, few narratives are as consequential or as gripping as the new chapter developing between China and Bangladesh. Here, the stakes stretch far beyond mere economics or technology. They touch the fate of over 1 million displaced people, the delicate balance of power across South Asia, and the possibilities and perils of a nation's leap into the digital age. In the next several minutes, we will peel back the layers of a complex web of deals, rivalries, and human aspirations, one that could reshape the region, and perhaps even the world itself. Let's begin with the most recent surge of diplomatic activity. In the past few weeks, Bangladesh has witnessed an unprecedented flurry of high-level meetings, particularly between opposition leaders from the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, known as the BNP, and top Chinese officials in Beijing. These talks took place against the backdrop of mounting economic strain, political uncertainty, and a humanitarian emergency with international repercussions. The discussions were filled with grand promises, deeper economic partnerships, advanced technology transfers, and even ambitious proposals to address the long-standing Rohingya refugee crisis. But behind the handshakes and carefully worded press releases, deeper questions linger. Is this partnership the key to propelling Bangladesh into a vibrant digital future, or does it risk entangling the country in new dependencies and threats to its sovereignty? To fully grasp what's at stake, we need to step back and examine the broader context. The relationship between Bangladesh and China is not new. For decades, China has stood as Bangladesh's largest trading partner and the single biggest source of foreign investment. The well-known Belt and Road Initiative, China's sweeping global infrastructure program, has already funneled tens of billions of dollars into Bangladesh. With Chinese capital and expertise, the country has seen the rise of modern highways, expansive deep-sea ports, high-speed rail lines, and cutting-edge digital networks. For many citizens in the bustling capital of Dhaka, these projects symbolize hope, the promise of improved living standards, new industries, and a chance to compete on the global stage. Yet this story extends far beyond concrete, steel, and fiber optic cables. Bangladesh occupies a unique and sensitive geopolitical crossroads, nestled between India and Myanmar, with the Bay of Bengal forming its southern edge. This geography situates Bangladesh at the heart of Asia's most intense geopolitical rivalries. India, the giant neighbor to the west and north, is increasingly uneasy as China's footprint in the region expands. Once a quiet maritime zone, the Bay of Bengal has been transformed into a theater for joint naval exercises and intricate military partnerships. Chinese warships now conduct regular anti-piracy and maritime security drills with the Bangladeshi Navy, raising both eyebrows and alarms in New Delhi and other regional capitals. Meanwhile, Bangladesh's role as a humanitarian host has become ever more central. Since the eruption of the Rohingya crisis in Myanmar's Rakhine state in the year 2017, Bangladesh has opened its borders to over 1 million Rohingya refugees. These displaced men, women, and children now live in sprawling camps along the border, often in makeshift shelters fashioned from bamboo and tarpaulin, having fled unimaginable violence. For Bangladesh, the costs are steep, resources are stretched thin, local communities face mounting pressure, and the world's attention is often fleeting. China's involvement in the Rohingya crisis is as complex as it is controversial. Officially, Chinese diplomats have pledged to work with great interest and sincerity to broker a fair and voluntary return of refugees to Myanmar. Beijing has held repeated meetings with officials from both Bangladesh and Myanmar, offering development aid and proposing new economic corridors in Rakhine State. Yet, experts and human rights organizations point out that China's close relationship with Myanmar's military junta, the very authorities accused of orchestrating the Rohingya exodus, casts doubt on its true motivations. Dr. Bates Gill, a prominent analyst at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, puts it succinctly. China's approach is transactional. Stability and economic interests always outweigh human rights. The past month has brought a dramatic escalation to this already volatile landscape. The Arakan Army, one of Myanmar's most powerful ethnic armed groups, has claimed control of key trade routes near the border, disrupting the flow of critical humanitarian aid and amplifying fears of renewed violence. Aid organizations warn that with each passing week, malnutrition and disease are spreading in the refugee camps. To make matters worse, the United Nations World Food Program has recently announced another round of food ration cuts, citing severe funding shortages. These developments have left hundreds of thousands of Rohingya even more vulnerable, with little hope for immediate relief. Simultaneously, Bangladesh faces its own deepening economic challenges. The country's foreign currency reserves have dropped to their lowest point in 5 years, forcing officials to seek increasingly generous Chinese loans and investments. Recent reports indicate that China has dramatically ramped up arms sales, not only to the Bangladeshi military but also to various armed groups operating in Myanmar, further complicating Beijing's claims to neutrality. Behind closed doors, leaked documents reveal that some Chinese officials are growing anxious about the security of their massive infrastructure investments in Bangladesh, especially as political instability threatens to spiral out of control. This is a dizzying, high-stakes game with pressure mounting from all directions. Bangladesh's political leaders, keen to demonstrate progress and legitimacy on the world stage, are courting Chinese investment in everything from renewable energy and medical technology to semiconductor manufacturing and high-speed rail. During their recent visit to Beijing, the BNP delegation pushed for accelerated progress on the Teesta River project, a critically important water management and agricultural initiative for northern Bangladesh. They also explored opportunities in digital technology, higher education, the blue economy, international land connectivity, and more. Yet, not everyone is convinced that deepening ties with China will yield unmitigated benefits. Opposition voices and international human rights groups are raising concerns about the potential costs. Dr. Ali Riaz, a respected professor at Illinois State University, cautions, Bangladesh's growing reliance on China is narrowing its foreign policy options and exposing it to greater risks. He argues that excessive dependence on a single partner can erode a nation's bargaining power, making it harder to defend its interests or resist unfavorable terms in the future. Regional tensions are rising as well. India, which has traditionally been regarded as Bangladesh's closest ally, is growing increasingly wary of China's expanding influence. Dr. Srirada Datta of the Observer Research Foundation observes, the more Bangladesh tilts towards Beijing, seeking economic lifelines and military partnerships, the more Delhi feels compelled to respond. The tightrope Bangladesh must walk is getting narrower by the day. To understand the full scope of the stakes for Bangladesh, let's break down the opportunities and the risks. On one hand, China's promises are undeniably attractive. New infrastructure could finally integrate remote and underdeveloped regions into the economic mainstream, bridging gaps that have persisted for generations. Cutting-edge technology in high-growth sectors such as electric vehicles, semiconductors, and green energy holds the potential to create thousands of skilled jobs and spark a new era of innovation. During their recent visit, the BNP delegation toured BYD, China's leading electric vehicle manufacturer, as well as high-tech parks and prestigious universities. They explored collaboration in medical technology, communications, and modern agriculture, areas that could revolutionize Bangladesh's economy. The health sector in particular stands to benefit. The Bangladesh-China Friendship Hospital and 4 new specialized medical centers in Kunming could provide millions of Bangladeshi citizens with access to affordable, high-quality healthcare. Enhanced cooperation in medical research, pharmaceutical manufacturing, and telemedicine could bolster the country's pandemic preparedness and address chronic health challenges. Education and culture are also on the diplomatic agenda. Chinese leaders have proposed closer collaboration in higher education, technology transfer, and joint research initiatives. Scholarships, student exchanges, and professional training programs could help Bangladesh leapfrog into the knowledge economy, fostering a new generation of innovators and entrepreneurs. Culturally, both governments have discussed celebrating the Golden Jubilee of diplomatic relations with expanded tourism, art exhibitions, and initiatives honoring shared historical ties. However, these opportunities come with significant risks. As Bangladesh's foreign currency reserves have dwindled, the country has become increasingly reliant on Chinese loans and direct investment. Some analysts warn of a potential debt trap, in which unsustainable borrowing leads to the loss of control over strategic assets or policy decisions. The example of Sri Lanka's Hambantota port, which was leased to China for nearly a century after Colombo struggled to repay its loans, serves as a cautionary tale in regional debates. For Bangladesh, the prospect of losing sovereignty over key ports, railways, or digital infrastructure is a sobering possibility. The risk of militarization is growing as well. Joint naval exercises between Bangladesh and China have become more frequent and sophisticated, focusing on anti-piracy, maritime security, and, reportedly, even submarine warfare. Recent Chinese arms sales to Myanmar-based ethnic armed organizations have raised concerns that the Bay of Bengal could become the next flashpoint in Asia's evolving security competition. For the Rohingya refugees, these developments are particularly troubling. Dr. Richard Horsey of the International Crisis Group notes, China's peacemaking efforts are always carefully calibrated not to offend Myanmar's military leaders. That means the fundamental causes of the Rohingya crisis, discrimination, statelessness, and violence, remain unaddressed. The humanitarian situation remains perilous. China has proposed ambitious development corridors in Myanmar's Rakhine state, hoping to create incentives for hundreds of thousands of Rohingya to return home. Yet for those still trapped in the overcrowded camps of Cox's Bazar, little has changed. With aid supplies dwindling, violence festering at the border, and fresh reports from the United Nations detailing ongoing abuses by both Myanmar's military and the Arakan army, the risk of a major humanitarian disaster grows every day. International observers warn that the world may be witnessing the emergence of a permanent refugee underclass, with little hope for justice or safe repatriation. Bangladesh's leaders now face a profound dilemma. Should they double down on Chinese partnerships, hoping that economic growth and technological progress will outweigh the risks? Or should they pursue a more balanced strategy, hedging their bets by seeking support from other global powers, even if this means slower development or more challenging negotiations? The answer is anything but straightforward. Let's consider some historical parallels. The challenges now confronting Bangladesh are hardly unique. Across Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia, dozens of smaller nations have discovered that economic lifelines from major powers often come with hidden strings attached. In Kenya, for instance, Chinese-funded railways have transformed the landscape, but mounting debt has sparked controversy and political backlash. In Venezuela, Russian energy deals have provided short-term relief, but entrenched long-term dependency. In the Philippines, American military aid has boosted national security but sometimes complicated domestic politics. The pattern is clear. Rapid development creates new opportunities, but also new dependencies and difficult trade-offs. Dr. Bates-Gill reminds us to look beyond the headlines and ceremonial ribbon cuttings. China's strategy is deeply transactional. Stability and access matter more than values, he warns. The long-term consequences of these deals often remain hidden until years or even decades later. Who truly benefits when the cameras leave? At what cost are new highways, ports, and power plants constructed? And what happens if political winds shift or popular opposition grows stronger? The Rohingya crisis, too, offers sobering lessons about the limits of external diplomacy. Without confronting the root causes of discrimination and statelessness in Myanmar, no amount of regional mediation is likely to produce lasting results. David Matheson, an independent analyst, observes, the Rohingya are pawns in a larger geopolitical game, with little agency to determine their own fate. For concerned viewers, this underscores the importance of supporting initiatives that promote accountability and human rights, not just quick fixes or diplomatic photo opportunities. So, what might the future hold for Bangladesh and the wider region? Several scenarios are plausible, each with far-reaching implications. In one scenario, China's economic dominance deepens, leading to increased dependence and potential debt traps that threaten sovereignty and long-term stability. In another, the Rohingya crisis escalates further, drawing in new external actors and destabilizing the region, with the risk of violence spilling across borders. A third scenario envisions a shift in Myanmar's political landscape, perhaps influenced by Chinese diplomacy, creating new opportunities or obstacles for repatriation and security cooperation. Meanwhile, the growing strategic competition between China and India could put Bangladesh under intense pressure to choose sides, jeopardizing its hard-won neutrality. There is also the real risk of increased militarization in the Bay of Bengal. With China expanding its naval presence and India determined to maintain its sphere of influence, the region could witness more frequent military exercises, intelligence operations, and even confrontations at sea. This would not only raise the stakes for Bangladesh, but also threaten the security of international trade routes vital to the global economy. The Bay of Bengal, once considered a backwater, is now emerging as a key battleground in the 21st century's great power competition. From the perspective of Bangladesh, the path ahead is daunting, but not without hope. The nation's history is one of tenacity, resilience, and ingenuity. Bangladesh has weathered wars, devastating cyclones, and the turbulence of global markets, yet has managed to build a vibrant, fast-growing economy from the ground up. The current challenge is to harness foreign investment and technological innovation for genuine, sustainable prosperity, without surrendering too much control or compromising the country's independence. What can ordinary Bangladeshis do in the midst of this high-stakes drama? First, stay informed. Demand transparency and accountability from leaders, whether at home or abroad. Second, support initiatives that place people's welfare and dignity above short-term political or economic gain. And third, remember that true sovereignty is about more than borders or flags. It is about the collective ability to shape the nation's destiny, free from undue external influence. Here's a rarely discussed fact. Behind closed doors, Chinese officials are increasingly wary of Bangladesh's political turbulence. According to recently leaked documents, some in Beijing fear that their extensive infrastructure investments could be jeopardized if instability escalates. This anxiety may prompt China to adopt a more assertive, or possibly more cautious, approach in the coming months. Will Beijing double down on its support for Bangladesh, or quietly pull back to avoid being caught in the crossfire? Only time will tell, but the answer could reverberate far beyond the region. It is important to note that Bangladesh is not merely a passive player in this drama. The country has actively sought to diversify its partnerships, recently seeking observer status in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, a China-led security alliance. This signals a potential tilt toward China's sphere of influence, but also an effort to gain diplomatic leverage and security guarantees in a volatile region. At the same time, Bangladesh continues to maintain deep ties with India, the United States, and other global partners, carefully balancing competing interests in a bid to maximize national benefit. Looking ahead, Bangladesh's ability to navigate these stormy waters will depend on a combination of wise leadership, public engagement, and robust institutions. Experts argue that strengthening domestic governance, ensuring that deals are transparent and that foreign investments serve the public good, is essential to avoiding the pitfalls of dependency. Investment in education, technology, and human capital will be crucial to building resilience and seizing the opportunities of the digital era. There are also lessons to be drawn from other countries facing similar crossroads. In Ethiopia, for example, Chinese-financed infrastructure projects have fueled impressive economic growth, but concerns about debt sustainability persist. In Indonesia, partnerships with multiple global powers have allowed for rapid modernization, but have also required skillful diplomacy to avoid getting caught in great power rivalries. Bangladesh can learn from these examples, charting a course that leverages foreign investment for national development while safeguarding independence and flexibility. Finally, the fate of the Rohingya remains an urgent moral and strategic challenge. As Dr. Nagenpao Kipgen of OP Jindal Global University points out, sustainable repatriation depends on addressing the root causes of discrimination and statelessness in Myanmar. The international community, including China, India, and Western powers, must do more to support justice, accountability, and long-term solutions for the Rohingya, rather than treating them as bargaining chips in a larger geopolitical contest. In the end, the unfolding story of China and Bangladesh is about far more than roads, railways, or refugee camps. It is a profound test of how a small nation can navigate the stormy waters of superpower rivalry, urgent domestic needs, and the universal quest for dignity and a better life. The decisions made in Dhaka, Beijing, and Delhi over the next few weeks and months, and the resolve of Bangladesh's people, will help determine whether this is a story of transformation and hope, or one of new vulnerabilities and deeper divisions. What do you think? Can Bangladesh transform these immense pressures into opportunity, or is it headed for new vulnerabilities and hard choices? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you learned something new today, hit the like button and subscribe. We'll keep connecting the dots